Welcome to 1111, a Veterans Day tradition, a live stream that began um, as an opportunity to recognize, to appreciate, um, to grow, I suppose. And of course, I'm not alone. I always have a couple friends with me. Um, these gentlemen, if you've caught any of our previous live streams, which of course you should, um, every year we get together and talk about, reflect on what's going on in our lives after the service, maybe evolving viewpoints. But I do not want to make them wait. So enjoy this title card, and I'll be right back. My man, how you doing,
How's it
Dustin?
going? I'm good.
Dustin and I met quite a while ago, but I believe that's on the record. Dustin, just real quick, your service and I guess the years.
U.S. Army active duty 95 to 98, and then again 2001 to 2003.
Word. And y'all know that what makes GI Joes awesome is the file cards. Please go back and listen to Dustin chat in earlier chats. If nothing, we are authentic. That much is true. You're repping a figure tonight. We'll get to it in a second. Let's get the buzzy one in here, shall we? My man.
Hey, how we doing?
They gone. We have a storied history online. That's easy to know. And I'm told that you're running your computer off of a manual fan. You're wiping it down with a piece of paper in there.
Yeah, it's pretty much cooling itself with some beavers.
Hey, it's always an honor to be on screen with you, brother. Appreciate you. But I will meet you if necessary. Let's talk the figures that we brought to the conversation. Dustin, I'm going to start with you first. What you got, brother?
Short fuse.
Short fuse and the Y.
That's the first figure I got.
Now, is that a childhood figure or?
No, this isn't. I think I do have the original, at least in parts, still around, and I can't remember if he was my first carded figure, but I also got a Clutch and the Vamp around the same time. So, but I always remember him as like definitely my first carded figure.
You know, I remember that first wave. It felt so unique. Did he seem like a unique figure to you, or was he just another dude and just another green shirt?
It's like looking back now, they were pretty uniform in the designs, everything that came later, but I do remember like seeing them with the figures that I have. I didn't have all of them, but my cousins had a bunch, and then I'd see them on store shelves, and they did look very, pretty individualized. They definitely stood out from everything else that I'd seen before, that I had before toy-wise.
Now, did you like him because of his mortar? But don't answer that. I'm gonna get TG involved real quick. Let's see. Oh, you have to unmute yourself, brother.
Yep, I got
it. Nice. Any thoughts on what was the figure again?
I went with OG Grunt, the original icon of GI Joe before Snake Eyes came around and stole his thunder. That's who I went with. I think Grunt to me, it wasn't my first figure. I didn't really start collecting until like probably 86, 87. But I just went with an OG, with my OG Grunt here. But like I said, he's the original icon before Snake Eyes, and he's because you can see him all on the packaging and on the comic. And he's the only one that they advertised who got out of the GI Joe and went back to college, like a lot of veterans do, and so that's why I kind of went with him today.
Nice, astute, good man. Did you have any comments on Dustin's pick? Was that one of your faves back in the day, or no?
Like I said, I didn't really come into G.I. Joe until a little bit later because I was born in 1980. So 82, 83 would have been before my time. I came in around like 86, 87, 88. But I mean, like I said, all of the OG ones with kind of the green shirted kind of uniform look, I always enjoyed, and especially with the OG line with the whole kung fu grip and the swivelable arms and stuff, really kind of blew out Star Wars way out of the times, from my understanding. So.
You're not wrong. You can't really overstate like the importance of being able to point a gun in multiple directions.
Yeah.
Of course, I brought Torpedo to the game, guys. This was one of my first acquisitions. Of course, like many folks, my parents weren't thrilled when there was a bunch of weapons in the plastic. And Torpedo was one of those dudes that you just can't go wrong. Can't go wrong. Simple design. I'm not thrilled about those eyes. This is a little bit of a later iteration, but he must be looking at some kind of, I don't know, Cthulhu beast underwater, because those eyebrows are high, dude. Do you guys have a favorite version of Torpedo?
I mean, the original is always the one I go to.
What about you, TG?
Yeah, I think the original one's the best. I like the color scheme on it. I like that kind of frogman kind of diver look. I always thought he was a lot better than Wetsuit, even though Wetsuit is featured more in the cartoon.
I can't justify the short sleeves. It's too casual.
Yeah.
It was a trick question. It's obviously the one with the American flag on the sleeve.
Oh,
so I'm sending some G-men to your location right now, commies. Anyway, we live in strange times. It's 11/11. It's Veterans Day, and folks are feeling ways about things in our country. As we gather, it's let me give this a little bit of context. We're all born into the age of information, and you take in all this stuff, and maybe you're lucky enough to run into G.I. Joe with Larry Hama, and he teaches you about the world. But along the way, you do learn about it, and your voice evolves, and that goes on for online as well. If it's UTG, you've done a live stream for what? How long did you do that live stream for? A year?
Yeah, I did it for about a year and a half or so. And then
it's fair to say that got you out of your comfort zone, didn't it?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, I enjoy talking with other people and kind of opening up to folks and kind of finding my own voice, doing something a little bit different than a lot of other folks were doing out there. So I don't think there's a lot of veterans doing a lot of live streams when it comes to the G.I. Joe toy lines and stuff. So
yeah, hey, military, if you're out there, TG if you need him. Dustin, I've noticed we've been friends for several years. I don't want to put a decade on it, but it's been a little bit shy of that. I've seen you grow. I've seen you find a voice, and maybe when you started out your online journey, did you have design, or were you just kind of like, oh, I'm going to run into folks?
Yeah, it's been real slow progress for me. I've kind of like, especially G.I. Joe adjacent, I think that was one of the first things that I really got me into anything online, was the HISS-TANK forum.
Mm-hmm.
And I interacted with quite a few people over there, and every once in a while I go, but I for a while I was on there pretty much daily, but I maybe once a month I'll check in on there, but it's really, I don't know. I have my phases that I go through with anything that I because I have creative itch a lot, and it goes all over the place. But what were you going to ask?
I was compelled to ask just because it seems like, not necessarily recently, but maybe over the last couple of years, you found like something that you want to speak about. You're compelled to put your voice in the world. Is it scary to hit that send button? There's a Veterans Day tweet which you reflect on just the state of the world, and we'll link that down below. I encourage everybody to check that out. Would you have sent that a couple years ago? And if not, then why now?
Yeah, I mean, as far as what my opinion is of the state of things now and the trajectory that has gotten us here, it's pretty much remained the same. I don't really take troll bait. I don't try to argue with people. I've pretty much gotten to this point where I feel like certain groups of people have their own ideologies and beliefs, and that's the way that they want it. And no matter what you present to them that should be able to argue what they believe in contrarily, it's you're just wasting effort. So I make my opinion when I feel like I have something to say, and I leave it at that. And some people agree, some people don't, and that's the world we live in.
I believe we would call this the post-truth era, brother. You don't have
Yeah.
to justify shit.
No.
Justin,
Mhm.
your voice, it came in with G.I. Joe, of course.
Yeah.
But you've always taken community seriously, not for granted. You've always supported indies, and I see you and I appreciate you. You know that. But like, how do you see this modern age of social media? Are you still compelled to put your voice out there, or is it just kind of like watch the circus now?
Well, you know, I really don't ever put much political stuff out there. I think there's enough out there for it, to be honest with you. You know, especially with social media and whatnot. I don't really see the social media as my political grandstand. You
Mhm.
know, I really see social media as my escape from the real world. You know, I can get online, I can talk to people, I can say, hey, that's a pretty cool whatever you're doing, be it video or be it pictures, or because there's a lot of great artists and whatnot out there.
Mhm.
That's what I really don't use social media for any kind of politics or really getting a lot of my opinion about things out there. It's just not my thing, you know. I vote in the voter booth, and that's pretty much all my political
Yeah.
leanings go, you know.
Well, there was something to that model in the 80s where nobody told you anything about themselves and we all got along.
Yeah.
Um, let me go
I,
here.
I I still actually retain that. Like I don't with the people that I work with, I know there's some people that um we share the same opinions about things, but I don't like have
Well,
any of them as friends on social media.
let me ask you
Because,
this. On one part of your tweet earlier, Dustin, you mentioned that like the only move left is to speak up yourself, to stand yourself, to not look for anybody to bail you out at this point. Um, I guess elaborate on that thought because I agree, but it's one of those things where everybody says it a little bit different. Like, how do you see it? You know?
um I I think inherently, if we could detach ourselves from the emotional investment we have in so many things that really don't affect us. Like
Hmm.
there's a lot of things that have been made political that shouldn't be political. Um, it's just it's weird, and like you said, back before social media existed, people did seem to get along a little better. I mean,
Hmm.
but I think we need to really. I mean, I'm always one of the things that I try to impress upon people that I get into any type of of deeper discussions is not even with politics. It's just that I don't understand why people are so quick to judge or hate or any of those things, because to me that it's just it's exhausting, and it really doesn't take any effort at all to, try to relate to other people or be compassionate or show a little bit of empathy, because like we're all struggling
Hmm.
and we all have more in common than we don't.
Let me ask it this way: before we talk a little bit of real veteran, military veterans, pardon me, I have a scratchy frog going on. Um, let's talk the culture war. You gentlemen are both veterans of the U.S. military. I am not. I'm merely a veteran of the culture war, which is funny but also poignant. Um, we've seen a lot of our culture really burn in this last decade. Most notably, it doesn't take you too long to turn on YouTube and see somebody saying Star Wars is dead. How did that happen? It's not important. But what I can tell you is that G.I. Joe has been selling out, where most comic book stores can barely keep the lights on. They can't keep issues of G.I. Joe in. Um, G.I. Joe is easily the best crowdfunders. You know, I guess I'm asking, I'll start with you, Dagon. With a lot of pop culture franchises on the rocks or really deconstructed, why did GI Joe make it?
I think GI Joe made it because there isn't so much a hooray for our side when it comes to GI Joe. GI Joe is, inherently already diverse, just like the military kind of is to begin with. The military, everybody comes from different backgrounds and different places, and they all go through the same crap when it comes to like basic training or any kind of hardness that you're doing, long duty days and all that kind of stuff. So everybody, especially if you have a military background, you kind of everybody's coming from the same place, and that's the same thing with GI Joe. I mean, everybody knows Cobra's the bad guy, GI Joe's the good guy, and then it's you can't really muddle that up too much. I don't think we're in all these other things. Like I said, it's too much for hooray for our side, and it's too much. Let's read into things more than simple good versus evil. I think when it comes to simple storytelling, when you're always striving for a gray area for things, that's not what everybody always wants. Everybody doesn't want a gray area. Like some people like say, hey, there's gray Jedi. Some people don't want gray Jedi. It's either good versus evil, and that's it. And when you start meddling with those fundamental things that become to different franchises, like I said, it deconstructs them, it destroys them. They can become less mythical. I think in our society there's nothing wrong with having mythic legends anymore. And I think especially with the 80s and the Cold War, we didn't have those there were always conflicts around the world, but they didn't have as much intensity as like a world war, and so you could have those good versus evil kind of situations.
We all remember the legendary battle Rocky versus Ivan Drago.
Yeah,
Dustin, your thoughts? Why is GI Joe thriving?
I think, like, compared to something like another franchise like Star Wars, I think it's like for the longest time we were kind of starved for Star Wars. Like there was the first 3 original movies and then that was it. And it left a lot of things, even when like in the throughout the 90s, when it was mostly novels that was adding to the lore, it was still pretty esoteric.
Mhm.
But now it's just kind of become overly
Basic.
convoluted and complex. But yeah, at the same time, like there's I enjoy a lot of the newer stuff that's come out, but there's a lot of I think it's weird because it's such a vast universe and there's so many things. Like for example, like in the book of Boba Fett, like one of the things I enjoyed the most was like the Sand People story narrative that uh when Boba Fett was kind of
Well,
welcomed
I'd
into
love
their
to spin
tribe.
off into Boba Fett conversation, and I do
Yeah,
concur that there's a good way to do deconstruction, and then there's a way that kind of leads your audience to the conclusion. But um, before we bump off, I would say this about the culture war, and it just occurred to me. It occurs to me on the regular, but first of all, it's always the community. Um, and one thing I'll say of the Joe community, who's out there and who may be listening in post, is that they always turn up for each other. Do we like each other? That's not important. Do we turn up for each other? Um, I think that's one thing. You're always going to find fresh GI Joe signal. You're always going to find somebody making their first YouTube video, um, and there's always going to be something to talk about, especially now. I don't think that's necessarily important for a brand to thrive, but it's worth mentioning that like there's no counterculture to excellence, which is what GI Joe is.
And it is kind of interesting because, like Dagon said, the one of the things that kind of helps you get through being in the military is that you're in it together. Like people come from like all over the country, and you interact with other people all over the world, and but
Mhm.
you're kind of in the same situation, so you're unified by that.
Yeah, that's a good point. Um, let's talk a little bit of military vet. Um, I guess I'll just jump back into this current era. You gentlemen always have plenty of room to reflect on this day, I suppose. Uh, Send out some good vibes. Maybe somebody that's on your mind, and we'll send out a couple salutes. Let's go with you, Dustin.
Um, just I tend to always get my annual interactions with people that I still am connected to on social media that I served with. So it's always good to hear from them. And then of course, a lot of my family are veterans, including my own daughter, and she's in art school right now. She's out of the military, but she has a job on the campus where she works in veteran related services for everybody that's enrolled there.
I did see that art that you posted on your timeline. When she comes
Yeah,
on next year, we'll bring her art gallery in so we can comment on some art.
Nice.
yeah, she's always working on a lot of stuff, like way more than like I should be. I never have the time or inspiration to do much anymore.
Don't be too hard on yourself. One thing I've heard from damn near everybody since the election, folks are zapped. Like
Yeah,
you can be the most creative person. You're like, dude, I can't get out of bed. They gone. Shout us out.
I think a shout out for all those guys that are still struggling with the war. Like especially for me, it's been 20 years
War
since
never ends.
but it's been 20 years since I deployed to Afghanistan. 25 years the on the 25th of this month, and it's crazy because like all that's still with me, and I even through all the mental health care I've gone through, all the counseling, all the steps to do get myself better and learn what's going on with me. I still struggle with it, and it's crazy. And it's just like how can these events that happened to you 20 years ago, a whole lifetime ago, hell, my deployment can almost start drinking now, and it still sticks with you. So my kind of shout out is to all those guys who are still suffering with that. Just still go get the help. Put the work in to try to get yourself better, because you're never really going to get over it, I don't think, but you're going to be able to manage it, and you're going to be able to manage the way how you react to things. You're gonna be able to recognize the signs when you're having a bad day when it comes to your mental health because of what happened, and then that's okay. That's okay to go through those things, but just you got to keep on getting better. Just like when you were in, you always got to get better. Always strive to get better, even though it's never going to be okay, perfectly okay, but that it's okay not to be okay, sort of thing. So that's what I say, and all those guys out there that need to put in your VA claims, put those VA claims in. Go to your local VSO office, your Veteran Service office, county offices, and put those claims in. So
Get those perks,
yeah,
guys.
you get paid for what you gave this country. So that's what I'd say.
On 11/11 to close us out, the good book brings us a verse, but tonight we're going to rewrite. The verse is, with this crowd, this should sink in. With knowledge comes sorrow. I think we can all understand that at different points. But let's rewrite the Bible just this once. I'm going to start with you, Dustin. With knowledge comes what for you?
Power. Mostly, I think getting, like you said, you don't, it's hard to get a sense of what truth is anymore. But I think if we kind of start to appeal to people in little ways to get them thinking, I think with that's the thing. People need to be engaged. People need to want to find out things for themselves, and it's the directions that they go. It makes it hard to keep everybody, you know, going in the right direction. But I think with the right mindset on the right information, that a lot of people can do a lot of powerful things.
Hmm. I think there was some rich dude back in the day said, "Give me a nation of workers, not thinkers." And you know I want to piss off rich people. Um, they gone. With knowledge comes what?
I think forgiveness. You know, you not because the more you learn about things from all sides of the situation, you can forgive others for the way they come with things, and or you can forgive yourself with more knowledge about a situation. So that's I think forgiveness. I think there needs to be more forgiveness and more grace out in the world. Give each other that benefit of the doubt. Maybe your intentions aren't so bad. You know, cause I think there's more good out there in the world than there is bad. So I say with more knowledge comes forgiveness.
Hmm. I don't know if I can add anything better than that, gentlemen. I think I would, when I think about that statement, with knowledge comes sometimes a conviction that you can't not send your signal out. You can't sit silently and watch it burn. Um, I know a lot of people I've worked with over the many years. They carry labels like doomers or survivalists, and that's not enough for me. As an artist, I got to live in two worlds, just like you gentlemen do. Um, and yeah, with knowledge comes patience, like Vagon said. Uh, but anyway, yeah, I appreciate you gentlemen for taking time. Not only every year, I look forward to this as soon as we hang this up. Just because it's great to check in on how you are and where you are.
Yeah.
Um, I appreciate you gentlemen in the GI Joe community and how you've supported me over the years, and hopefully this winter, if it snows enough here in the Mountain Time Zone, I'll make another comic. But that's a big if, baby. Um, I appreciate you, gentlemen. Did you want to send anything on the way out? They gone? Do you have anything coming up or anything like that?
Oh, not really. I've just been chilling a lot lately, working a lot. You'll see some poems like I like to write and some pictures I add with it. That's what I do. So give it a like, and if you have something to share, always hook me into it. I'll boost that signal for you because I got nothing else to do. So
Dagon will stream anything. He'll do anything on a stream. Dustin, you got anything coming up aside from more tasty pictures?
I have a lot of stories that I've written and am continuously writing more that need to be translated into videos at some point.
I like the sound of
I've
that.
started a few and I've just not been able to get things going, but
Dude, I'm like those one ladies from Dune. Like I measure my success in centuries. I'll get it done. I'll get it done. Um, yeah, thank you, gentlemen. Um, I would say
thank you.
this. I'm gonna end it with a shout out to just the Joe community, whether it's Chasing Joe, the gentleman in Australia and the UK, or it's Talking Joe, or it's What's on Joe Mind. These are all folks that turn up on the weekly, regardless of what's going on. Of course, GI Joeberg, my home team. Um, all you guys. Of course, I'm never going to remember everybody, you know, full force, all of it. I see you gentlemen, and it's not an accident that we're here. I appreciate you guys. Until next time, 11/11.